Well, being a last-minute fill-in, which is always good to be on the list. But yeah, my name's Rich Robinson. Work with the Minnesota Vikings for the last uh, 25 years. Played and went to school at the University of Kansas, wide receiver. Got moved to defensive back. I know a lot of people in the league, a lot of coaches, a lot of players. So I'm in the mix. Also coach high school football for about 20 plus years as well. So like I said, I'm in the mix. I know a lot of sportscasters here in town. I'm actually in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which at the time, because of COVID, they had canceled all the fall sports, volleyball, football, anything that was like a close contact sport, they canceled. So today, they actually decided to let volleyball and football start up again September 28th and games starting mid-October. So it's going to be a short season because here in Minnesota, temperature changes. Things are shutting down. Winter's coming. So it'll be a short season, but they also get to play. So that's the good thing about it.
Yeah. So did you play like a position on the Vikings team? I saw a 38 in your email. Did you play at one point, one season or at some point?
No, I actually got I was trying out for the Chicago Bears after college. That was back in the day when half the people listening weren't even born. But, we all get here at some point. But I'd gotten released. I came in actually injured as a free agent, so I knew my chances weren't that great to begin with. But my options were either Cleveland, Detroit, or Chicago. I said, wow, Chicago, but oh well, I did it. And 38 was actually before I got moved from offense to defense. I ended up playing defense in college, so 38 was actually the last number I held. So, no, I didn't. I got released by Chicago Bears. That's it.
Okay. So, but I do know, so you guys, I think this guy's really humble. Really humble, because one night I was with some of my friends and we were at this bar and Jen was going, "Hey, look, there's Rich," and you're holding up one of those. You do things with the Vikings, correct?
Yes, I actually do the first down markers. Chain gang, they call us.
The chain gang.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like, she was pointing out. I was like, wow, I never really thought about the guy that does the chain gang you call it? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that was interesting. So, okay, well, let's, does anybody have, I have another question, but anybody have a question before I jump off on the next thing?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, well, the next question, if it's okay to throw it out here,
absolutely.
Cameron and Jalen, I think, are some of my two best sports analysts in the class. So I'm going to ask it kind of in their honor. What do you think about the game yesterday between the Vikings and the Colts and that loss? What would be your thoughts on that, Rich?
My thought. I was actually just talking with a couple buddies about that earlier. One thing that's hurting a lot of teams is the lack of having the preseason games.
Okay.
Their timing is not right. The speed is not right. Their legs aren't back yet. The chemistry just isn't there. And it's like everybody's still trying to work out these bugs with COVID as far as keeping a player safe. And so most of us knew that a week ago, after watching the Green Bay game, that they were going to have a tough time in Indianapolis because they cannot stop the run. They can't generate a pass rush, which if you can't generate a pass rush, it means your corners and safeties are back there chasing speedy wide receivers way too long. And if you have a good quarterback, he's going to pick you apart. And so now once you've established the pass, now you can run play action, you can run straight dives, you can run counters, bootlegs, misdirections, basically anything you want, because your offensive line is controlling the game at this point. So whenever you feel like passing, you want to pass on first down, it's wide open, which basically caught them off guard. And then flip to the other side as far as the Vikings offensive line is horrible. Horrible.
Yeah. Anybody want to comment on that?
No, I do have a question. What motivated you to go to the University of Houston, Kansas, instead of going to an HBCU?
Well, coming from Minnesota, they told me at the time, actually, they told myself and a few other players from Minneapolis, because we were in the city, they said, we're not good enough to play at the U of M. I said, wow, really? Okay. Well, two of the guys went on to Nebraska, came All-American, drafted first, second, third rounds, and I was not sold on Minnesota. And so I'd actually played junior college here, and one of the coaches came, who was actually interviewing for the Vikings job, came out to a game, and he liked what I was doing, and he kind of invited me, recruited me to go down there, and I'm like, wait a sec, Kansas? I don't know nothing about Kansas except hillbillies, and that's about it, backwoods. I know nothing about Kansas. But the more I started looking into it, it's like, I was a journalism major. I said, wow, they got a great school of journalism. So I went down there on my recruiting trip after a bowl game here. I packed up all my winter clothes, got on the bus for like $37, went down to Kansas. And it was like 82 degrees, and I got winter clothes with me. So I said, I got to ditch these clothes. I can't be walking around winter clothes on. So I got down to the campus. First of all, I put all my stuff in a bus locker because I was leaving in a few days, and toured the campus, met a lot of people, players. I said, it's 82 degrees a week before Christmas. I said, man, I'm coming here. Look at this beautiful campus. People walk around in shorts and T-shirt, and I got to go home to a winter coat, boots, 30 below. Yeah, I'm going to Kansas.
Really relate to that.
So probably to this day, I'm like, why did I leave Kansas? Why?
I didn't know the word there.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. But see, when I got down there, everybody found out I'm from Minnesota, that I grew up with Prince. The time, all those people, I was like a celebrity. I said, okay, this works. But everyone can ask me, even with summer down there, they're like, you guys wear winter clothes in the summer up there? So there was a lot of myths both ways.
Well, I did get to have a little chat with Ricky yesterday, and we did kind of like pre-interview. And one of the things that some of the students have brought up in this class was Black Lives Matters in football. And so I was talking about like maybe some of the challenges being a Black player in what, 70s, I guess, 70s, 80s, that Black players faced in that time.
Yep.
But he said there was no Black Matters then,
Oh, there wasn't. But, in the 70s, you were still just coming out of all the stuff that had been going on in the mid-'60s. It hadn't been that long that Martin Luther King had been assassinated. Robert Kennedy had been assassinated. So you weren't really even a whole decade past all that stuff back in the mid-'70s. And if you could play football, well, hey, you had somewhere to go. You had something to do. But back then, you were more looked at upon as just an athlete. All you could do was just play sports. And if you look at a lot of the colleges who were recruiting, a lot of the top colleges, back then, it didn't matter about your GPA. It didn't matter if you went to class. If you could play, they were going to find somewhere for you. And it was like a code amongst teachers to, hey, make sure this guy's got good grades so he's eligible for football, for basketball. Because at the same time, we need the superstar to be eligible. We need him to sell tickets. We need him to be the face of the program. Now you have so many different social causes with sports, but sports has yet brought so many different cultures, races together. It's still like the backbone of harmony, of keeping everybody together. So it's like even now, once sports was canceled, everything was canceled. It's like everything went chaotic.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That sports actually was bringing people together. Interesting. And that all the cultural things maybe in sports and all the events is what brought people together. That's such a good point.
Yep.
Because when you were talking about that, I mean, I came up, around the same time as you, and I wondered if I was just nothing but a Pollyanna because I hung out in college with the black kids because they had better parties.
Right. That's where the cool people were at.
And you got dressed up real nice and I just had such a good time,
Right. That's where all the cool people were at. That's where the party people were at.
It really was. And they still are.
Right.
Bunkers, and they're hanging out there. and I was such a Pollyanna because I just thought the world was nice, that this wasn't there. I mean, it didn't hit me till later in life what racism was, because I have a nephew. I have a black family, a nephew that I had to protect his whole childhood and still do.
Right, exactly.
And that's when somebody's got their hand over their mouth like, oh, Miss Cat, what has she said?
Well, and you remember too is that the black culture was always musically inclined, musically talented, always had a groove, always had a beat. So musically wise, back in the 30s, 20s, white people would sneak into Harlem, into New York, into the boroughs to buy those albums.
Yep.
And it was cool to do, but like I say, they had to sneak in there to buy these albums, to hear these jazz bands, to hear these Latin bands, because the white culture was more on the orchestra, the symphony, all that slow down music that's like, are you kidding me? This puts me to sleep.
Yeah,
So,
and and like I said, back in college, the black folk, they're all so good to me. They invited me over in their homes, their families, come over, let's eat. So there's a reason sometimes that white people go, well, we didn't get this Black Lives Matter things because they got invited in and they weren't on that other place. I don't think it makes them bad. It's just that they just didn't. It took them a while to get slapped with it.
Right, and it's funny when I meet people up here, white people who are actually from down south. A lot of them ask me, it's like, where can we go for some good chicken, some greens, some sweet potatoes? And I'm like, I got like 2 or 3 places you can go. That's it, because this town, they don't season their food. They don't know about crock pots. They don't know about cooking up some greens and, rice and gravy. It's just, like I said, why did I leave Kansas City? But anyways, so it's being up here, this state, this city is at least 30 years behind. It's always behind in everything. So I tell them, hey, you can go to this place. It's got good chicken, good greens, just good down-home food that you like.
Okay, so he and I got a little off topic talking about the food, but
Oh yeah, that's okay. They know what we're talking about.
I know. Friday's Fish Friday at the Piggly Wiggly, and I always go in.
Ooh, there you go. Get your hot sauce, girl.
Yeah, a little like the fried shrimp, and they got the mac and cheese and the peach cobbler, and they go.
That's what I'm talking.
You girl.
Yep. And I just wanted to touch on one thing. Uh-oh, you vanished.
Right here, eat my news right quick.
Okay, guys, I'm sorry. I really did flip the switch on you today because I thought we had a different player. But
my bad.
As we're talking, you should be writing down some questions that you want to throw Rich's way. We can talk about Rich. What are you open to discussing today, in sports-wise?
Football, right. Basketball.
Football. What do you got?
I have a question. So yesterday we saw a lot of top players on teams go down with ACLs, from Saquon Barkley to Joey Bosa of the 49ers. Now, would you say that those injuries are mainly because there was no preseason, people weren't actually there to have full training camps? Do you think that's a cause? Because most people are saying it could be the turf on the field.
It's I like your question, and it's a very good question. It's a lot of like soft tissue injuries that haven't been built to develop because you didn't have OTAs this spring. You didn't have mini camps. Your training sessions were call up a couple guys and you run patterns for about a half hour. But you didn't have the even when they did get together for practices, the practices were limited as far as how much time you could be on the field. And then it was still no contact. And then your other practices, once they finally let you put the pads on, it was a soft practice. It was like a thud, and then you had to back off. And you still weren't hitting, and so you still weren't getting your ankles right. You still weren't getting your legs right. And what's been said since turf came out is that there's been more ACL tears. There's been more high ankle sprains since turf came out. And the only reason turf came out is because you don't have to grow the grass. You don't need a team of engineers to maintain the grass. And so like you were saying yesterday, one of the biggest complaints they had, like at the San Francisco game, is all those people who went down because of the turf, the ACLs blown, the high ankle sprains, and San Francisco had a list of people. And now they're saying that the players themselves are saying, hey, I don't think I want to play here next week because the turf is bad. And so one of the topics that came up today as I was listening, they were saying that they have to send the NFL specialists out to San Francisco field to recheck the field, because if you got player complaints, you got to address the issue. And so it comes down to the turf. It comes down to lack of conditioning, lack of contact. Just all those things are creating a lot of injuries right now. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, sir, it did.
And, like I say, just real quick, San Francisco has to play at home again next week. Mm-hmm. And they've already lost their quarterback, maybe for a couple of weeks. Their defensive end, Bosa, their starting running back, and there's a few others. But like you say, it's a list of people. And so now the Giants are coming in wondering, is this turf safe to play on? So,
right.
There we go.
In your career, your long career as an athlete in football, if you had any redos, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I'd have played baseball.
And why is that?
Uh,
That was a Barbara Walters kind of question. Barbara Walters question.
Yeah, that's okay, Barb. Let's see. I still have neck pains. I've had 3 knee surgeries,
Jesus.
ankle. Let's see, broken hand. But I would do it all over again. I would do it all over again in a heartbeat.
So another, I have. He's not here today. I'm really sorry. Is it Zafir? Is that how I say her name? His name is.
Yes.
He plays for the team and really good guy. He's real quiet. But a lot of them, they express interest in wanting to pursue their career in athletics and football and things like that. Are there any other things that they can do? And maybe something does happen to them in school, or maybe they don't get on the team. Is there something other that they can do in athletics that they can, like say they want to be a part of an organization like the Vikings that they can consider?
Oh, yeah. You can get into player personnel, pro scouting, college scouting, director of operations, general managers, just even coaching itself. There's a lot of directions you can go with sports. It doesn't necessarily have to be football, because pretty much each sport has its own scouting department, general manager, player development, there's a lot of things that have been coming up lately as far as with the younger players. You'll get the mentors who will come in and they'll talk to these guys about how to be a professional, how to be a professional when sports is over with, how to manage your money, how to stay away from these women who are going into the clubs specifically looking for you, because they know you got that cheese. They know you just signed a contract, and they'll find you. There's websites to know when the players are in town, which clubs are going to, which hotels are staying at. So you've got mentors who make sure that you stay on your game. Don't be detracted by, wow, she's hot. She's hot. She'll put on her best outfit, but yet the next day, she's got to go to work serving tables.
That's true. And, my class last year, I made that kind of comment. I said, look, if you might get on a journalist. I mean, I was working with the Timberwolves for a little while, and, and I was like, you might be an attractive woman and you might be working on a sports team in journalism, but, and then I asked the question to the class, is it ever okay to walk up to a player and give them your number? And they looked at me real weird. I said, no, that's the most unprofessional thing you could ever do. Ever. You will get fired. You will get taken out of the building for that.
Yep.
Like they just didn't quite, it took a minute, it was like, they got quiet.
It's true.
There have been jobs where I have worked where if you look at the celebrity, I've done a lot of stuff in show business. If you even look at the celebrity, they will ask you to leave. Yep.
Sounds like the Ellen Show.
Oh, yeah. Well, his name starts with a P. That was one of them.
Oh.
Yeah. We know of him. Yeah. We know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know that. I know that guy.
Good guy, though.
Yeah.
I have another question. Today it has been confirmed that Deion Sanders Primetime will be the coach of Jackson State's football team. Which do you think that's I personally think it's a great career move because he always wanted to coach. But do you think that it would, maybe because of his name, that it would aid in helping HBCU football get put more so on the map than what it is right now?
Yes. I think it's going to help a lot for his recruiting. And if he gets the right staff down there, get the right staff that you get the right coaches, not a bunch of your buddies who played or you played with at Florida State. You got to get guys in there who know how to recruit and who know how to coach these kids. But at the same time, you got to start winning because I don't know if you remember when Doug Williams went to Grambling. Mm-hmm. It was all glamour. It was all about Doug. You're keeping track of him as a person, not him as a coach. So when all of a sudden he's not able to recruit, he's not able to win, well, who's the first one to go? Is the head coach. So prime time, he's got to get the right guys in there, and he will. I'm sure he'll get the right people. And it will draw, I don't know as much as the conference itself, unless he's winning. He's dominating the conference. He's going to get a lot of notoriety that Jackson State is like 6-0, 5-0, or whatever. It's got maybe some future number 1 and 2 draft players in his system. So I think it's a good move for Jackson State.
Okay.
So everything is now going to shift towards Jackson State. The camera's going to be on prime time. So I wish him well.
Can I ask kind of a simple question, but curious? Like, so, the NFL, they're all in their camps and they're, working out. What do they keep doing to keep from getting COVID and spreading it to their families?
Major testing.
Is it more advanced than what's available out here? I mean, do they have something?
Oh yeah. This is state-of-the-art stuff that they'll know within 15, 20 minutes if you're positive or not. This is why they were allowed to proceed as if nothing ever happened, because the guys were getting tested. You come into the facility, you get tested. You leave the facility, you get tested. If anybody tests positive, you're quarantined at a certain location for 14 days, and until you clear, you can't come back. Right. So that's how you eliminate the spread. And then it goes down as far as, well, who was he sitting next to in the locker room? Who was he covering that day? Who did he speak to? The trainer, actually one of the trainers here, a couple of trainers here when camp first started, the head trainer got COVID. So they had to remove him and quarantine him for 14 days.
Wow.
Yep. So
are they, I guess the players I just thought maybe they keep them all together in a camp in a communal area, but I would think they want to go home to their families if they can. I mean.
Yeah, these it's not as tight as, the NBA being put in a bubble. It's just a lot more testing procedures to make sure if somebody tests positive, it stops right there. Right. It doesn't go any further. It doesn't leave the building. If one guy's tested, like I was saying, if one guy's tested, you're going to find out who was sitting next to him. So those guys are going to be tested to make sure. And if anybody tests positive, they're shuttled away for 14 days, and that's it. Even
follow-up question to that, or any thoughts, Demetrius?
I got a question. So like the NBA, do the NFL have the option to give their players to opt out, not even do the season at all this year?
Yes, they do. Many of the Patriots opted out, and they gave you a deadline as to when you can decide if you want to opt out or if you wanted to play this year. And a lot of players, especially the Patriots, opted out not to play. But at the same time, when camp starts, normally you got 110 guys showing up for camp. This year they narrowed it down to, I believe, 70. So it was a very short process, and if somebody got hurt, you had another guy ready. Even now, you still got 53, 55, including practice squad, you got 56 players on the roster. And so Once somebody goes down, you just bring up another guy, just like that.
Okay, does anybody else have any? You're going to be writing an article from this chat here, so think about any more questions that's going to help you write that article.
I have a question.
Down about the last 10 minutes.
So how do you feel, what's your take on black millennials coaching in the NFL?
If they're, I think if they know what they're doing, if they can actually coach, I think give them a shot, give them a chance. Why not? Might be one of the best. Some of the best coaches I've seen or talked to are the ones who didn't actually play, but they've been around the system. They know the system of the game. They know the ins and outs of the NFL. And so those are the guys who are able to talk to the younger players. And they get it. They understand how to coach these guys. Whereas a lot of guys who may have played, they have a hard time coaching. Because they're not, it's more about, that ego. This head coach used to play here. Oh, wow. But he can't coach. So that bottom line is, are you able to coach regardless of who or what you are, age, color, whatever? Can you coach? Can you teach this guy? This guy may come out of college as the number 1 or 2 pick. His ego was so high because it was a high at college. But you got to be able to break him down and teach him the nature of this game. It's like going from high school to college, being a senior. Coming out of high school as this all everything. But when you get to college, you find out quick that, hey, these guys are better than me. They're bigger than me. They're faster than me. And they'll humble you. So how do you, as a coach, millennial coach, whatever, how do you get this guy to perform the way you want to perform?
And to follow up your question, we have also seen in the recent years a lot of black coaches get hired, but their longevity in being able to turn around a team is cut short rather to their white counterparts. How do you think the NFL can go about, I would say, giving people the ample opportunity to turn a franchise around?
I love that question. I think you have to give the coach more time. You can't just bring them in knowing it's a bad situation to begin with. I mean, you've seen it. You've seen a lot of black head coaches get jobs where that team hasn't won 4 games in how many years. But now, just to satisfy the Rooney Rule, you got to hire the first person you got to interview as a person of color. So you satisfy that rule by giving a person of color that job to the worst team out there. And within 2 years, he's cleaning out his locker. And it's like, you got guys on this team who you didn't even bring in, who you have no idea who they are still. But you're expected to perform this miracle with dude, I got nothing but third stringers. I got special teams guys. I got a has-been quarterback that you brought in. I didn't bring this guy in. So you're supposed to do all the patchwork and make everything go right. But at the same time, that ship is already halfway underwater. So don't even pack your bags, because unless that miracle does happen, you're the first scapegoat. And then you end up on somebody else's staff, maybe a white guy's staff, but you do a great job as a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator or as a running back coach. But you won't surface again as a head coach for quite a while unless one of those jobs comes back up again. So it's tough. It's extremely tough because it's a good old boys network, and you're supposed to come in as a person of color, and it looks good for the NFL. Oh, we've got 2, 3, 4 black head coaches of teams where you look at the standings every year, they're scraping the bottom. And so it's not fair, but you give them the opportunity. It's like, I would rather not take that job myself. It's like, why? It's a death sentence. If that answered your question.
It did. It did.
Cameron, you've been kind of quiet. What, you have any questions? Mr. Isaiah Allen.
Yeah. I don't know much about. Well, I don't know what question to ask. I can think of something right now.
Something that'll
In
help.
regards to the conditioning, or I guess the lack of conditioning to NFL players, do you think that if for some reason in the future we're in a pandemic again, do you think they would, I guess, like force having a preseason? Because hopefully, I know probably in the future we'll end up having, like, I mean, history tends to repeat itself.
Sure.
So, like, do you think they would try to maybe now make it a priority to have a preseason, and if the case that we have another pandemic in the future?
Yes, I like that question. And what they did, why they canceled preseasons this year, is they had no idea of how to handle the testing. Say you're on a road trip, they had no idea how to put people in hotels where they could stay. The whole procedures changed. So the best way to eliminate a lot of that until you started playing was to get rid of the preseason. So I, on the opposite hand, thought that if you keep preseason, at least 2 games, you'll figure out how to keep the game flowing. You'll get all these things done that there's questions on your mind of how do we do this, how do we do that. But if you have the preseason games, you get all these little check marks checked off as to how to handle road trips, after game testing, this and that. So, I mean, what if a player contracts something at halftime? Where do you put this player at? How do you deal with this player? Because now you're on the road. So these are the things that they didn't do because of not having preseason games. So I think in the future, if they do have preseason games, which they probably will, because now they know how to handle it. Now they know what to do. They've got all the bugs figured out, and you can go back to having preseason games, and you get conditioning, you get this, you get all the stuff that you don't when you eliminate the preseason games.
Do you think that they should have had, I don't know if somebody already asked this or not because I was away from the camera, do you think it was a good idea for them to have a college football season, considering different conferences are starting at different times? Like right now, the ACC and some smaller FBS conferences are playing, and some FCS conferences, like I said, conferences are playing. Do you think they should even consider having a college football playoff, considering I know JUCO wants to have football next spring. I know, like, our conference wants to have football in spring. Like, is there even a point? Because I know the Big Ten wants to start football in October. Like, is there a point to have the college football players? I don't even know if they're still already considering it. I think they are. But, like, what would you how would you handle this?
I think, like you said, history is going to repeat itself. So if you don't have these games, you don't know how to prepare for what may come in the future. Mm-hmm. If you have these games, basically you already know what to do if and when it does show up again. And on the one side, this is all about money too. The NFL was going to continue because it's $1 billion plus industry. With fans or without fans, it's still $1 billion plus industry. Same with the NBA. The thing with college is that if you don't have this revenue coming in from football and basketball, you've seen how many non-revenue sports are being eliminated from the programs because that money's not there. Mm-hmm. So I think some of the conferences pulled the trigger a little bit early as far as saying, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. I understand you got to have the safety aspects, but like a lot of teams are starting to do now is to figure out that, well, basically all we had to do was wait longer to see how the NFL handles it, how other conferences are handling it. And so they're finding out that, hey, we're able to play football. We now know how to test, quarantine, just keep games in conference and all that stuff. So they've got a much better handle on it now by allowing it to go through. If you don't allow it to go through, you're not going to know what to do as far as safety-wise. You're not going to have a clue. And so waiting till spring, I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No problem.
See, I know we have a limited amount of time. I didn't know if you have something in your some scheduling. I just want to make sure everybody can get their questions in.
Me, I got all day.
Oh, love you. Thank you. You're the hero of the day.
You know, for the youth of America, I got all day. The gym ain't going anywhere.
I got another question.
Yes, sir.
In your whole career as an NFL, at your job, what you work in, what is your most intense best game you have worked with in the NFL?
The best game I worked was the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Okay. With Philadelphia and Patriots. Great game.
Why was that such a good game?
Well, let's see. It was a good week, actually. Got to see a lot of old friends in town. Except it was cold. It was so cold, it was ridiculous. But stuff went on. And then when the game started, I remember this one thing specifically. When the Patriots were warming up, all of a sudden, you know, they wanted us there at like 2:30 for a 5:30 kickoff. And I'm going, guys, you got to be kidding me. So, but actually, I'm glad I did because I got a lot of people. So all of a sudden, the stadium just starts buzzing and screaming, and it's like, what's going on? What's going on? And so the camera people were flocking to the tunnel. Well, here comes Tom Brady. He's coming out like he's on a white horse, you know, making his hair look good. And he's got ball boys toweling his hair down and making him look good. So he runs around the whole stadium, and he goes by the Philadelphia fan side. And they're booing at him. They're hissing him. They're throwing stuff at him. I'm like, good for them. Good for them. Let's keep Tom humble. So all of a sudden, Tom puts his hands up. It's like he claps his hand and he puts his hands up, and the ball boy throws him the ball. And he catches the ball, and he's like, throws it into the crowd, and the crowd's just going wild. And I'm going, you got to be kidding me. I'm just like, I want to puke. This dude, do whatever he wants. So he claps his hands again. Ball boy throws him another ball, throws it at just some receiver. So he sets his helmet down, and there's like 3 balls lined up next to his helmet, kind of slicks his hair back, you know, looking good for the cameras, flash bulbs everywhere. Tom terrific. It's like, wow. So he picks up a ball and just kind of, you know, throws this little route that he has to, picks up another one, throws it. Ball boy comes up, hands him a towel, wipes his face down. Like, how can you sweat from running around the field once and throwing 3 balls? But he hands him a towel, wipes himself down, puts his helmet on, runs off the field. I'm like, wow, really? Really? But I said, hey, he is the best. This is how the best are treated. This is how the best live. And then, game started, and they were beating him up. And it was a great game, and I was right there to see it.
Nice.
Best seat in the house for that game. The best seat, because I'm right on the sidelines.
Dang.
Yeah, I think that's how I first met you. Like, it's like, look, there he is. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I get that all the time. I get that all the time.
I thought about that before that. I was just like, oh, okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Any thoughts?
I do. How do you recommend us college students transitioning to potentially work in the NFL or sports in general? Like, how do you recommend us to go about that?
Get a internship. Get a hold of them early. Like right after the season is over, because there's nothing to do with the players. Now it's all about business, running the facility, getting stuff ready for the upcoming season. So this is when you get in, you have a good chance to learn everything, learn all the ropes about it. There's different departments you can get into for internship programs. Like even my brother, who's a pro scout with the Vikings, that's how he got into it, was through the internship program. And so he actually started out in marketing, and they ended up picking, once his thing with the marketing was over, they liked him well enough that he moved over into the scouting department. So he became one of the lead scouts with the Minnesota Vikings. And so that's why I would say get in there February, March, get into the whichever team is out there. Call them, send them, let them know what you want to do.
And recently I saw advertised the Vikings had a media journalist or something like that advertised. And so they actually hired in-house people.
Yes.
I worked for the Timberwolves for a little bit. That was a freelance type thing, but I do know there's so many different types of things that you do in the organization. Like we had to do a video shoots with the new players, so that when that player comes on the field during the game, they show that quick interview with that player, so that you're familiar with their name.
Right.
So there's a lot of different things that you can do in the organization that they need. Like so much. They hire a lot of in-house now, right?
A lot of in-house. Yep. But that's where you start, is that unless you're a well-known sports writer around town, that might pick you up, like you say, as a freelance, or maybe they want you to specifically write during the season on the team. Might be their blogger. Who knows? But there's so many, like you were saying, there's so many avenues once you get in there, and they will promote and hire within. And it's a lot of hours, long days, every game day, you got to be there. But hey, still got one of the best seats in the house. Free tickets to the game.
Just got to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, better than working at Old Navy after I graduate.
Woo! Right. Well, it's better than still saying, "How may I help you today?"
Yeah.
Fries or onion rings.
Okay, so anybody have any other? Sean, do you have any questions, thoughts, comments?
No, not really. Well, actually, I do have one question. What is your least favorite team in the NFL?
I think you're gonna get him in trouble or something.
Yeah, you never know who's listening. You never know who's listening. Well, because I was primarily just working game days on Sundays. My other job, an actual firefighter for the city, and so I always have to. If I had the day off, I would actually have to trade the day with somebody to go cover the game, and probably the one team I would never trade days off or to go see was the Detroit Lions.
Really?
Really. I would rather sit at work, eat nachos in a recliner, and watch a game on TV. There was just nothing exciting to see about Detroit.
And I wonder why they give them the Thanksgiving game every year.
Right.
Right.
Like,
No,
why
but-
is that?
I
Right.
don't get that at all.
That's tradition.
It is tradition, though. I don't
It's
know why, though.
tradition.
I don't know why.
I still don't get it.
I really thought you were going to say the Cowboys.
Yeah. The
I
Steelers.
Yesterday was crazy.
Well,
thought it was going to be the Cowboys.
Yesterday was crazy.
what? I got friends who coach with the Cowboys.
What'd you think about that game?
Ooh.
Can we not?
Gang,
Yes.
Hey, you don't have to say
we
anything.
went
You
there.
don't
We're
have to
going
say
there now.
anything.
Look
I'll
at
go
this.
ahead and explain it for you.
Okay,
Like, you don't have to say anything.
Danny and Sean, did y'all cry?
Any y'all from
And Courtney. And Courtney.
I'm a
Courtney,
Falcons
you-
fan.
Courtney.
That
No,
hurts.
well, Courtney,
Any
you're
y'all from
you're
Atlanta?
more.
I
They're
am.
all Atlanta fans.
No, I'm not.
I'm a
But I've
Colts
been a
fan,
fan
so
since
I was
Vic.
happy that we won. I was happy.
Okay. All y'all who from Atlanta, you should be kicking yourselves again.
I'm
You
sick.
lost the Super Bowl when
You
you're
don't have to
up.
remind me of that.
Up
Okay.
25.
Okay.
They're gonna forever remind y'all of that.
We're aware.
But
Know the vibes.
you're up
You know
you're
the
up
vibes.
39. You're up 39-30. And how do you lose a game? You lose a game
Bad,
on a
bad
squib
coaching.
kick.
Bad
To the
coaching.
Cowgirls.
Bad coaching.
With 5 minutes left in the
Bad
game.
Coaching. Honestly, I feel like that was the players because they
bad
knew
They
coaching.
didn't even try to. They didn't even try to recover the onside. They didn't even try to recover the onside.
They just
stood there
watched
watching.
it go
Brain
10
dead.
yards.
It's still coaching, though, because
That's
how
still
you
coaching.
go out and hire a defensive-minded head coach and your defense always lose you the game. Matt Ryan
you.
and the offense have done what they're supposed to do, but the
Mm.
defense can't
Thank
close
you.
out games.
I'm
So
just going to
it's the
say
head
this.
coach's fault.
Thank you.
It's the head
Yeah.
coach's
Thank you.
fault and your defensive coordinator's fault.
Dan
Quinn
Quinn
is gone.
instantly be fired immediately.
Oh, yeah, he's
He
gone.
should have been fired years
Quinn is
ago.
gone.
Yeah.
Our GM,
Yes.
Dimitrov, is gone. I'm done.
But that's the question somebody brought up. How do you coach the millennials to play, to coach? How do you teach these guys just fall on the ball? Dumb Donald can figure out how to fall on the ball, and it's a win.
Crazy.
After the Super Bowl, I hate to bring this up again, but
Oh, my God.
you're up 28-3 at halftime.
I still think that game was rigged. I don't care what nobody says.
I'm almost thinking that too, because now all of a sudden your defensive coordinator hasn't blitzed the entire second half.
That's what I'm – thank you. Oh, my God.
You missed how
No.
Oh, my
Also,
God.
your
It's somebody that believes in your
No. But wait, your
He just
offensive
said-
coordinator should be fired too because
Yeah, because after that
because
Julio
they
catch,
couldn't-
we should have ran the ball, and then boom.
I
Matt
was
Bryant
about to say
don't
that.
miss
I mean, he had a
field
The
goals.
touchdown.
Patriots could not stop y'all running attack. The Patriots could not stop y'all running attack all first half. Second half, he come out throwing the ball like he crazy. Like the offensive coordinator should have slowed the defense down. You run the ball, the clock doesn't stop. You throwing the ball 20, 30 times. Come on now, that's stopping the
And look
clock.
what he-
I just
That's
don't
like-
understand
the
where was
San
the
Francisco
intensity the
49ers
first
now. He
half
got
when
paid off, bro.
they forced Ezekiel
I'm
Elliott to
telling
fumble
you.
the ball twice, and then you get Dak Prescott to fumble the ball. Where was that in the second half?
3
We
times.
had 3-4.
It was
Because,
nowhere.
Bro, our defense is doo-doo in the second half, dog.
Terrible.
They don't beat pressure in the second half, bro. Like, how are you going to blitz the whole house the first half? We didn't send one blitz in the second half at all. We didn't send a single blitz.
Not one.
We didn't send a single blitz.
You let Brady
That's
throw
bug.
60 times that game. The second
He
half.
throws 60 times every game.
Yeah.
Because we can't run the ball because they can't block a little kid trying to come through the line. Don't get me started.
But
So much emotion in your voice.
I'm telling you.
there's a lot of anger in that voice.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm so sick of it. It's been the same thing every 5 years. Like, you can't have your fans all hyped up for the same bull crap every year.
Uniforms and everything. And everything.
Okay, but see, at least you guys have been to the Super Bowl lately. Here in Minnesota, the Vikings haven't been to the Super Bowl since 1978.
What do you think? What do you feel about Kirk Cousins? Do you think he's the answer?
Oh Lord,
Kirk Cousins is terrible. Kirk Cousins is terrible.
Lord, when they signed that cat for $86 million guaranteed, I said that's it. That's it.
No, ever since he went on the rant about the way he was treating the coronavirus, I was like, yeah, this man is crazy. Something is
He's
wrong.
crazy.
He is crazy.
And they're to re-extend his contract for a $66 million extension.
I don't think he deserves that much money, bro.
No.
Why? The quarterback they already had.
Diggs, and then you get rid of Stephon Diggs, and he goes to the Bills. That's your number one. Now you don't have.
He was smart to leave, though. He was smart to leave.
And then they didn't pick up another wide receiver to replace Stephon Diggs. Like, you just kind of like, all right, we just gonna work with what we got. No, that's a prime time wide receiver. You gotta replace him.
Right.
But you can't replace him.
Don't disrespect
making the Bills better.
Not necessarily replace him, but find somebody who can give you similar production. They putting all their eggs on Thielen, and Thielen can be really great, but then he can disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, he's not a
So,
number one.
13.
So they didn't go out there try to find somebody who's going to be consistent for every game. They didn't go out and do that.
But that's been a history of Minnesota.
I think they tried to rely on the run game.
I got a question.
But he's going to get hurt at some point too. And then what?
So, Mr. Richard.
In their SOL.
So, who is your Super Bowl prediction? Who you got going to the Super Bowl this year?
Way too early Super Bowl prediction.
Well, it's a way too early prediction.
Oh, no. It's never too early. You can always throw it out there and change your mind later. Just say, hey, I was just saying.
So we have Mike Zimmerman right now on Facebook in a press conference right now talking about why the team didn't win.
Well, I can tell you why they didn't win.
The comment here. He looks like he's being put through the ringer.
Yeah, I can tell you why they didn't win.
As you should be.
Good.
But yesterday.
He looks like he's sitting in the Hall of Shame.
There's a lot of fingers being pointed at him right now because, real quick, the real question is, I'm going back with Kansas City, who I predicted last year to win the Super Bowl. So don't hate. That's my pick. But yesterday, I'm sitting in the boat fishing, listening to the Vikes game, and I'm listening to the Cousins just getting beat up. I'm listening to the defensive line, no pass rush, no this, no anything. I'm listening to the offensive line, let the quarterback get beat up. And I'm going, well, this is all dedicated to no preseason games. Your OTAs are not there. Your practices are soft. They're just soft. You might as well have practice with pillows. That's how we're going to condition. That's how we're going to train. Pillow fight. That's it. But then once the season starts, you got defenses that are ready to slap you upside the face because they're ready to play, except Minnesota's defense. Zimmer traded to get this guy from Cleveland. Not Cleveland, but from Jacksonville and a couple other guys to draft.
Oh, Ngakwe.
Yeah. Yep. But you're getting nothing out of him. Absolutely nothing.
They really did have a good D-line. I don't know what happened. Do they still have Linval Joseph?
Yeah, it's still there. Like I said, they're just not getting anything out of him. And so if you can't stop the run, you're not going to get any kind of pass rush. If you can't stop the pass, they're going to run on you all day. And it's just, no pass rush. You can't cover receivers all day.
How do you feel about the Everson Griffin trade?
Well, there's just something I got to be careful what I say because I know Everson too, but Everson wanted out of here. Everson was off the field having a lot of issues, a lot of problems. There was a couple of years ago he freaked out right before the game, literally freaked out, and it took like 6 cops to subdue him, where they had to subdue him and put him in handcuffs, basically sedate him in the locker room before kickoff. That's why all of a sudden they ruled Everson Griffin was not going to play that day, but nobody knows that, so it goes no further than this conversation. But anyways, but it was good for Everson because he needed a change. He needed to get out of here. He just wasn't getting, he was asked to take a pay cut. And so part of it, why he sat there so long as a free agent, well, part of COVID and part of the money thing. And finally, when the Cowboys came along, threw him a nice deal, said, yep, I'm out. So it was an even parting. It was good for both sides.
How do you think the Panthers are going to finish out the season? Do you think we're going to get a win? Or do you think we're just going to be completely awful?
2-14.
Playoffs.
2-14. Jesus.
2-14.
6-10.
Trash.
I got them being in the wild card.
Well, you just lost your running back for a couple weeks.
Yep.
Jesus.
No solid defense.
That's
None.
tough. That rule in the hot seat.
Swiss cheese defense.
You sign a quarterback to throw interceptions, and I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, and I am highly upset with what our front office did. You got rid of a guy you said couldn't play, but he just threw for 400 yards last game and almost won the game. So then you get rid of your best 2 cornerbacks for what? For what? Because our cornerbacks aren't getting any production this year. So I say 2-14, if that. Okay, and we got a head coach that don't know nothing about defense. All his years of coaching, his defense has given up 33 points a game.
But you just got rid of you guys. Yeah, well, I was giving you.
If y'all can't beat Atlanta, something is wrong.
To be fair,
something is wrong.
To be fair, y'all don't have Luke. Luke was that defense.
Yeah,
Luke was that defense. You can't replace Luke.
Like I said, our offense isn't as bad. Well, the season opener, I know we played against a young team, but our offense wasn't too bad. But I didn't watch the game at all. I just try to keep up with it. We shut out Tom Brady in the third quarter. I don't think we're coming back. We scored 2 touchdowns. Chris McCaffrey goes out. We just lose. I'm like, you know what, bro? That's it. We'll Chris McCaffrey will be out for 2-3 weeks. Mike Davis, our second string quarterback or running back, might step up. We might beat the Chargers next week because Tyrod Taylor's injured too. So add to
But no,
Herbert had an amazing game. He had an amazing game.
The way that man was playing yesterday.
There was no film on him.
He's going to pull.
That don't matter. He's going to be another
film now.
And their defense was amazing.
He's going to be another column where he goes 4-0 and then he gets destroyed the rest of the season.
We play the Jets next week. That's a win.
Yeah, that's a win.
That's a definite win for us.
That's a win. You don't beat the Jets. Oh,
something's wrong.
I'm going to give your game checks back.
The Cowboys and the Seahawks.
Seahawks.
Oh, no.
I don't see them going.
I don't even want to watch any more games. Not after last week.
Okay. Last question.
Go ahead.
Who do you think will win the MVP? I vote Russell Wilson finally gets MVP votes and he wins it this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
At Mahomes.
Mahomes.
I can't say that. I think a finalist for me, Deshaun Watson.
God no.
Deshaun Watson.
God no.
But he has to turn it around though. He has to turn it around though.
Who does he have?
He's going to go on.
With the way he's playing right now, I can't. Kyler Murray too.
They have the
Murray,
toughest
that's a
schedule
sleeper.
that the NFL has seen since the 60s. They have the toughest 4-game schedule since the
They
NFL
do.
has seen since 1967. They are going to lose. They're going to start 0-4. How can you win the MVP and you start 0-4?
You can't.
You can't. Yeah.
You can't.
So
Give
I
it
don't
to
think
Lamar.
that's
You're
Deshaun
done.
Watson winning it.
Hey guys, I have a question to my class. So if we invite Rich back another time,
Yes.
you want to invite him back? Raise your
Next
hand.
week.
Yes.
Next week.
Yes.
Next week.
We can have good conversations about sports.
So
I got a question.
Once a week.
listen,
Go. I'm in.
if you agree, I'll have Ricky Young and we'll have Rich on, and we're on. Everybody.
Can you do it like how like in school when y'all used to invite people, y'all clear our whole schedule? Can you get the department to clear our whole schedule so we don't have to go to classes after this? Because I got a class after this.
Enjoy
Wow.
I really did want to hear the rest of this, but I got my class.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we already 15 minutes.
Right? Rich, you are excellent. I love having you here. I just love having you. It's really awesome. You really.
I have fun. They're a good group. I like them.
This is one of my favorite classes here because we have some of the best. I'm sorry, I brag about you guys all the time. Like I'm like somewhere between a coach and a mama. They're some of the smartest, brightest people at school, and I just love having them as my class.
Well, yeah. I have a question. Next week, I'd love to come back, but can we talk about a few things? Doc Rivers as a coach.
Oh,
yes.
I'm in. I like this man. I'm in. Go ahead.
Whatever we talk about, they have to write an article about in their assignments. That's part of the deal.
Okay.
What we're doing is
what other questions? What are the other questions? Because I'm ready.
I gotta opt in.
Sheesh.
You got
Doc Rivers.
What other question were you gonna ask us?
Jalen, did you say something?
The success of the Lakers is the spotlight more on LeBron James or AD?
LeBron? The spotlight ever.
What?
LeBron.
I think it's the whole team.
Okay.
Because LeBron is putting the ball in people's hands to make them contribute. Because just by yourself, Ethan Jordan found that out. By yourself, you're not going to win a championship.
Right.
You got to have help. So if you got AD hitting that last second jump shot, which is probably lucky anyways, but go.
Do you have any professional pictures of yourself that my students can use as part of their write-ups and blog?
I send it to you?
Yeah, just send it to my email.
Okay.
And then I'll put it on our Blackboard forum, and then they can use those as part of their assignment to write up some article about you.
Okay.
Just something cool, maybe something. Maybe I don't know. Anything professional that you're doing.
Okay. To finish with that, Doc Rivers, the WNBA, and there was something else. Yeah, football as usual, but definitely Doc Rivers.
So, there was another topic I was going to talk. I have this plan in my syllabus ahead of time, was about scripting. Is sports? There was a topic that was in a blog not long ago. We could talk about this later, but is sports scripted? Like NFL games and different games.
For sure. Yes.
We have
28 to 3 was scripted.
Not to go for that ball.
That's a tough one.
Please don't get me wrong about that because we lost.
We can say that for next week.
That's
We
up
can
to
say
you.
that for next week.
My syllabus.
All right, word.
Another, a topic
Next
of
week.
conversation.
The Golden State Warriors blew the 3-1 lead for money. They were bought.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
I believe that.
But you could say that about Oklahoma State. Not mean about Oklahoma. When they had Durant and Russell.
Oh, yeah.
And Harden. And Harden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They blew it.
See how fast the table turns.
Harden's a snake. Chasing that ring.
Harden's a one-man show.
He's the second coming of Vince Carter, in my opinion.
What?
Yeah, because
What?
listen, hold on.
What?
Let me expound on that point.
I'm gonna
That
leave the
sounds
room
crazy
on
to y'all,
that
but
note.
let me expound on that
note,
point.
I have to go to
I'm gonna
class.
expound on that point real quick. Vince Carter coming into the league was one of the most ruthless scorers we have ever seen. You know, he's more famous of the dunk contest. We all thought that he was gonna win a title. But then look, he got screwed. He got
40
traded.
points in a game. Maybe
Yes, then he got traded. Now look, James Harden doing the same exact thing, trying to chase a ring with
But they're
OKC.
two
Went to the
totally different players. You cannot put them in the same conversation.
Vince is
They're
more of
two
an
totally
athlete,
different.
and
Two totally
Harden's
different
more
players.
It's in that realm. I'm looking at it differently. It's in
No.
that realm for me personally.
No.
Well, I'm glad it's personally because amongst the rest of us, that's your thought. That's up to you. But Vin-
That's just me. That's just.
Okay, so I gotta jump real quick and talk about your assignment that's coming up.
You talking about the article?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go over this before you go real quick. So you can see the screen. I just show you this real quick. Now this was about Ricky Young. I'll change it and I'll put Rich on there. You know, a minimum of 500. I'll have the class up here, Zoom. And so I did put down some stuff to look at too, if you want to, you know, I just thought this was interesting to put in this week about the Vikings, the preview show matchups. I put the game in there. I thought that was
0-3 for the Vikings.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, anyway, so and this I'm gonna erase this right here. I had interview questions because we didn't have that today. So I'm just kind of showing you what we have this week, and then next week will be about next week's class. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know. And yeah, and so you guys probably had the class, right?
Yes.
I'm good, but still.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm done.
You get
It was
everything
good talking to you.
you get everything you wanted to know? Any other questions or
I
comments?
got one last question.
One.
Do you watch any like shows like The First Take or stuff like, you know, Stephen A. Smith or Matt Kellerman and stuff like that?
I watch First Take just about every morning because I want to hear what stupidity comes out of their mouths. and I'm going, how can you make these comments when you've never played the game yourself? So I'm just saying, and as the thing about Doc Rivers last week when they choked against Denver, Game 7, that morning, Stephen A. on First Take was talking about, he was passionate about it too. Mm-hmm. He said, with this kind of roster, this kind of talent, this should have been done in 5 games. Now you're talking about Game 7. Doc Rivers, if you don't have these guys ready to play tonight, you need to get in your fishing boat, give your game check back, and look for a new job. There ain't no way you're supposed to lose to Denver. No way. This is out of Stephen A. Smith's mouth. So that's why I wanted to ask you guys about next week. How would you handle, what would you do with Doc Rivers after last week's debacle? Something to think about.
Okay.
I got plenty to say.
Yes. It'll be a great class discussion.
We'll save it for next week.
Yes. A great class discussion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, like I said, I want to talk about some WNBA stuff too.
Oh, how do you feel about Asia Wilson winning the
We trying to
We're trying to go.
We gotta go.
You guys got to go to
We
class.
gotta go,
We
Jalen.
got class.
You got to go.
We got a whole other class, Jalen.
So you got enough to write an article with? You good?
I mean, we good. We straight. We
Yeah,
getting it out.
All right.
If you just post a recording on Blackboard, I'll rewatch
Yep,
it.
it's all recorded. It'll be up on Blackboard. Your assignment's up on Blackboard. And next week, hopefully, I hope everything's good with Ricky Young. You know, he said he's going to try to be here next week, and you know, he's really sorry he couldn't make it. So, you know, you know Ricky, right, Rich? You guys
I
know
know
each
Ricky.
other?
I know Ricky. I know Ricky.
Okay, all right. So we can have a good conversation here then next week. So, yeah. So, anyway, thank you so much for coming. You saved the day. I'm just real grateful to you. Thank you.
I appreciate the invite. I love talking with these guys. We got more to talk about. Trust me.
All right. Well, I'll send you an invite next week.
I'll be ready for them.
All right. Hey, it's good to see you guys. I'll see you on Wednesday. Okay.
Right.
All right, bye.